Lena had always admired her mother, Amma, but something inside her had begun to change. It was not loud and it was not sudden. It started quietly, like a small shadow forming in a corner of a bright room. For many years, Lena thought her mother was the strongest and kindest person she had ever known. Amma walked with confidence, spoke with a calm voice, and smiled in a way that made people feel safe. She had a warm presence that filled any place she entered. People greeted her with respect and they always listened when she talked. Lena used to feel proud of that. She thought her mother was someone everyone should admire. But as Lena grew older, she started seeing things differently. She noticed how people always compared the two of them. Wherever they went, someone would say, "You look just like your mother." They said it with good intentions, but Lena began to hear it in another way. To her, it sounded like people could only see her as a smaller copy of Amma, never as her own person. At first she brushed off the feeling, but slowly it became heavier. She would walk through the market with Amma and people would call out, "Amma, good to see you." They would laugh, ask questions, share stories, and thank her for things she had done for them. They greeted Lena too, but never with the same excitement. Some even forgot her name and simply said, "Amma's daughter." Lena tried not to let it bother her. She smiled politely and followed Amma around, but inside her, something tightened. Amma, on the other hand, did not seem to notice any problem. She walked with her usual bright energy, greeting everyone with warmth. Lena admired her mother for that. But at the same time she felt something else that she did not want to feel. She felt smaller next to her mother's light. At school the same thing happened. Teachers praised Amma for the work she did in the community. Some teachers even said to Lena, "You must be just as talented as your mother." It was meant to be encouraging, but Lena felt pressure instead. She felt as if people expected her to be exactly like Amma, confident, strong, and perfect. But Lena did not feel perfect. She did not feel confident either. She often made small mistakes. She worried about what people thought of her. She liked quiet corners, books, and sketching. Amma liked talking to people, solving problems, helping others, and organizing things. They were different, but no one seemed to notice that. Everyone treated Lena like Amma's reflection. One afternoon, when Lena returned home from school, she found Amma sitting on the porch, watering a row of flowers. Amma looked peaceful as sunlight touched her face. Even in simple clothes, she looked elegant, so elegant that people said she could make anything look beautiful. Lena stood there for a moment, watching her mother, and a strange feeling filled her chest. It was part admiration, part sadness, and part jealousy. She could not believe she felt that way. "How was school today, Lena?" Amma asked, smiling warmly. "It was fine," Lena answered quickly, walking past her into the house. Amma lowered the watering can, confused by her daughter's tone, but she said nothing. She simply watched Lena disappear inside. Amma sensed something had changed in her daughter, but she did not know what. Inside the house, Lena went to her room and closed the door softly. She dropped her school bag on the bed and sat down. She stared at her reflection in the mirror near her study table. She saw her brown eyes, her hair tied in a neat ponytail, and her calm face. People often told her she looked just like Amma, but Lena did not see it. To her, Amma had a glow she herself did not have. Lena whispered to herself, "Why do they always talk about her?" She felt guilty for thinking that way. Amma had never done anything wrong to her. Amma had always supported her, loved her, and helped her. But Lena could not stop the jealousy from growing. That evening, Amma prepared dinner. The smell of warm spices filled the house and Amma called out, "Lena, come help me set the table." Lena walked into the kitchen and began placing plates on the table. Amma hummed softly as she cooked. Her voice was smooth and comforting. Lena watched her mother for a moment and wondered why people seemed to love Amma so easily. When they sat down to eat, Amma asked again, "Are you sure everything is all right?" "Yes," Lena said quickly, looking at her food. Amma wanted to ask more, but she did not want to push her daughter too much. She simply nodded and let the conversation fade. Lena felt relief but also sadness. She wanted to tell her mother how she felt, but she did not know how. The jealousy made her feel ashamed and she kept it buried inside. Later that night, Lena sat outside on the steps of their house. The air was cool and she could hear distant voices from neighbors walking home. She hugged her knees and rested her chin. She wished she had her mother's confidence. She wished people saw her for who she was, not just as Amma's daughter. She wanted people to say, "Lena, you did great," not, "You remind us of Amma." She wanted to shine too, but she felt she was always standing in her mother's shadow. The moon rose higher and the stars began to appear. Lena watched them quietly. She thought about how different stars shone in the night sky. Some were bright, some were dim, but each one had its own place. She wondered if she had her own place too, or if she would always be compared to Amma. As she sat there thinking, she heard Amma open the door behind her. Amma stepped outside and sat on the step beside her without saying anything. They watched the sky together in silence. Amma finally spoke softly, "You know, Lena, you don't have to be like anyone else. You are enough." Lena nodded, but she did not believe it yet. Not fully. The jealousy was still there, sitting quietly in her heart. And even though Amma had no idea what her daughter was struggling with, she could feel the distance between them growing. Lena wished she could stop feeling this way. She wished she could admire her mother without comparing herself. She wished she could find her own path, her own strengths, and her own light. But she did not know that everything would soon change. Something Amma would later tell her would open a door Lena had never imagined. And when that moment came, nothing would ever be the same again. When Lena woke up that morning, she thought it would be a normal school day. She did not expect anything special to happen. She moved slowly as she got ready, tying her shoes and putting her books into her bag. She felt calm but a little tired. She did not know that the day would become much heavier than she imagined. When she reached school, everyone was busy preparing for the community event happening later in the day. Teachers moved chairs, students carried decorations, and the air was full of excitement. The school invited different speakers from around the town to talk about kindness, leadership, and growth. Lena knew her mother was one of the speakers, but she tried not to think about it. She kept reminding herself, "It's just an event. It's nothing big." But deep inside she already felt nervous. She did not want everyone at school to look at Amma the same way the people in town did. She did not want to hear people comparing them again. She walked through the hallway quietly, hoping she could hide in the noise of the busy students. When the event finally began, the students gathered in the assembly hall. Lena took a seat near the back. She tried to make herself look small, hoping no one would notice her. She watched the first few speakers talk. Some of them spoke about helping the environment, others talked about starting small projects in the community. People listened politely, clapping after each talk. Then it was Amma's turn. As soon as Amma walked onto the stage, the room changed. People sat straighter. Students whispered softly, saying things like, "She's so confident," or, "She looks amazing." Lena lowered her eyes. She felt a small twist in her stomach. Amma began speaking with her warm, calm voice. She talked about growing up in the same town, about helping neighbors, about being kind even when life felt difficult. She shared simple stories that made people laugh and think. Her words were gentle but strong. She spoke in a way that made everyone feel included. Lena could not deny it, Amma was good at speaking. Too good. Everyone seemed to admire her. When Amma finished, the entire hall clapped loudly. Some students even stood up. Amma smiled and thanked them before leaving the stage. Lena stayed in her seat, feeling smaller than before. She wanted to be happy for her mother, but instead, her chest felt tight. She felt invisible in a room full of people. She felt like Amma's light was too bright, making it harder for her own light to be seen. After the event, students rushed out into the hallway. Lena stayed behind for a moment, hoping to avoid the crowd. But she could hear her classmates talking. "She was amazing," someone said. "I wish I could speak like that," another added. "She's so beautiful. I love her smile. She makes everything sound important. Lena's mother is incredible." Lena heard every word. Each one felt like a tiny stone dropping into her heart. She walked slowly to her classroom, trying not to show her feelings. She kept her face calm, but inside, her thoughts were loud. Why do they notice her but not me? Why do they praise her so easily? Why don't they see anything special in me? When she reached her desk, she sat down quietly. She placed her books on the table and stared at the window. The rest of the class came in, still talking about the event. Her teacher even mentioned Amma's speech and how inspiring it was. Lena kept her eyes lowered. She did not want anyone to look at her. At lunch, her friends talked about the same thing. "Your mother is so cool," one of them said. "She speaks with so much confidence." Lena only nodded. She did not trust herself to speak. She felt that if she opened her mouth, something sharp might come out. The rest of the school day moved slowly. Every class felt longer than usual. Every hallway felt louder. And every time she heard her mother's name, she felt a little more tired. When the final bell rang, Lena walked home alone. She moved quickly, hoping to reach the house before Amma returned from the event. She did not want to talk about it. She did not want to hear what Amma thought of her speech. When she reached home, she dropped her bag in her room and sat on her bed. She felt drained, as if the day had taken all her energy. She lay back and stared at the ceiling, thinking about the voices she heard all day. A few minutes later, she heard the front door open. Amma stepped inside, humming softly, still full of the warmth she carried everywhere. "Lena? Are you home?" she called. "Yes," Lena answered, but her voice was flat. Amma walked to her room and gently knocked on the door. "Can I come in?" Lena hesitated. "I'm busy," she said, even though she wasn't doing anything. Amma paused. "All right," she said softly. "I'll be in the kitchen if you need me." Lena waited until her footsteps faded. Then she closed her eyes and breathed deeply. She felt guilty for pushing her mother away. She knew Amma didn't do anything wrong. But she couldn't help it. Something about the day made her feel raw. At dinner, Amma asked, "How was school today?" "Fine," Lena replied quickly. "What did you learn?" Amma asked gently. "Nothing much," Lena said. She kept her eyes on her plate. Amma tried again. "Did you enjoy the event?" "It was fine," Lena said in the same cold tone. Amma looked at her daughter for a moment. She could see something was bothering Lena. But she didn't want to force her to talk. "If you ever want to share anything," Amma said softly, "I'm here." Lena nodded, but she didn't look up. After dinner, she went straight to her room. She sat at her desk, staring at her hands. She felt confused, frustrated, and tired. She wanted to talk to her mother, but the jealousy inside her kept her silent. She wondered why she couldn't just be happy for Amma. She wondered why she felt like she was fading in her mother's shadow. She wondered why she couldn't find her own place. But most of all, she wondered how long she could keep these feelings hidden. Amma, sitting alone in the living room, looked toward Lena's closed door. She sighed softly. She didn't know what was happening, but she could feel the distance growing. And Lena, lying awake in her bed, whispered to herself, "Why can't people see me too?" She didn't know that soon the truth Amma would reveal would change everything she believed. The family gathering was supposed to be a happy day. Lena knew that. She knew everyone came together to share food, talk, and enjoy each other's company. But she also knew that these gatherings always made her feel something heavy inside. She tried to prepare herself for it, but deep inside, she already knew the day might hurt more than she wanted to admit. The moment she and Amma entered the family house, relatives rushed to greet them. They hugged Amma first, laughing loudly, holding her hands and telling her how beautiful she looked. Someone said, "Amma, you have not changed at all. You look the same as when you were younger." Others nodded excitedly, agreeing with every word. Lena followed quietly behind her mother, smiling politely whenever someone turned to her. But even when they said, "Lena, you're here too," it felt like an afterthought. The attention still went straight back to Amma. People took seats around the big table, talking over one another with happy voices. Soon the stories began, stories that Lena knew very well, stories that always came up whenever the family gathered. Someone started by saying, "Do you remember when Amma organized the village event all by herself? She was amazing." Another aunt added, "She was always the smartest girl in school. Everyone admired her." Lena listened as more stories poured out like water from a full bucket. They talked about Amma winning a prize for helping the community, Amma speaking confidently in front of a crowd, Amma solving problems that even adults struggled with. Every sentence seemed to shine a bright light on her mother. And every time Amma shone, Lena felt herself shrinking a little more. She sat at the table, staring at the food on her plate. She tried to stay calm, but her chest grew tight. She felt her eyes burn, and she knew she might cry if she stayed any longer. She pushed her chair back slowly, hoping no one would notice. "Excuse me," she whispered, but no one heard her. Everyone was still laughing and talking about Amma and her many achievements. Lena slipped out through the back door and stepped into the open air. She breathed deeply, trying to let the cool breeze calm her. The sky was soft and golden with evening light. She looked at the ground, at the flowers near the fence, at anything except the door behind her. She felt small, like she was disappearing again. Her throat felt tight, and her eyes filled with tears she didn't want to show. She walked a few steps away from the house, stopping near a small tree at the edge of the yard. She crossed her arms and looked up at the sky, doing her best to keep the tears from falling. She hated crying. She especially hated crying because of jealousy. She felt ashamed, confused, and tired. Tired of being compared. Tired of hearing about Amma's greatness. Tired of feeling like she could never reach the same level. She wiped her eyes quickly when she heard soft footsteps behind her. Amma had followed her outside. Amma did not call her name loudly. She walked slowly with gentle steps, as if she knew Lena was holding something fragile inside her heart. When Amma reached her daughter, she didn't speak at first. She simply stood beside her and looked up at the sky too. After a long moment of silence, Amma asked softly, "Lena, what's hurting you?" Lena felt her heart squeeze. Those 5 words broke the wall she had been holding up for weeks. She wanted to stay quiet. She wanted to swallow her feelings again and pretend nothing was wrong. But she couldn't. Not anymore. The weight was too heavy. She shook her head, trying to hide her face. "It's nothing," she whispered, but her voice broke a little. Amma reached out and gently touched Lena's arm. "I can see something is wrong," she said in a calm, warm voice. "Please tell me. I'm here." And that was all it took. A tear fell down Lena's cheek. Then another. She covered her face with her hands, shaking her head again. "I don't want to feel this way," she whispered. Amma stepped closer and waited patiently. Finally Lena spoke. Her voice was quiet, shaky, and full of the feeling she had buried for so long. "I feel jealous," she said. The word felt heavy, almost painful. "I feel jealous of you." Amma stayed silent, listening. Lena continued, her voice trembling. "Everyone talks about you. They talk about how amazing you are. They talk about everything you did when you were young. And when they look at me they just say I look like you." She wiped her face again, but the tears kept coming. "I feel like I'm never enough. I feel like people don't see me. They only see you." Amma's face softened, and she listened with full attention. Lena kept speaking because she had held these feelings inside for too long. "At school people talk about you. At home people talk about you. Even at family gatherings it's always you. And I just," her voice cracked, "I feel invisible next to you. I feel like I don't shine. I feel like no one notices me. And I hate that I feel jealous. I hate it so much. But I can't stop feeling this way." She took a shaky breath. "And I'm tired. I'm tired of being compared. I'm tired of trying to be happy for you while feeling small inside. I'm tired of pretending I'm okay." Lena looked down, ashamed. "I don't want to be jealous of my own mother. But I am." Amma took a deep breath, her heart breaking a little at her daughter's pain. She reached out slowly and touched Lena's shoulder. "Thank you for telling me," she whispered. Lena looked up in surprise. She expected anger or disappointment. But Amma's eyes were soft and full of understanding. Amma stepped closer and pulled her daughter into a gentle hug. At first, Lena tensed, unsure if she deserved comfort. But then she let herself relax into her mother's arms. The warmth calmed her shaking breath. Amma whispered, "You are not invisible to me. And I never want you to feel small. I'm sorry you have been hurting." Lena closed her eyes, letting the comfort wash over her. For the first time in many weeks she felt lighter. Not healed yet, but lighter. She didn't know it, but this moment, the moment she finally spoke the truth, was the beginning of everything changing. And soon, Amma would share her own truth, one that Lena never expected, one that would shift her entire understanding of her mother. But for now they stood together in the quiet evening, a mother holding her daughter, the distance between them slowly beginning to fade. Amma held Lena's hands gently as if they were fragile, and she looked into her daughter's eyes with a calm and honest expression. The soft evening light touched Amma's face, making her look peaceful, but there was something serious in her eyes. She took a slow breath before she began to speak, wanting every word to reach Lena's heart carefully and clearly. Lena felt her own breath pause, unsure of what her mother would say next, but she could already sense it would be something important. Amma finally spoke, her voice warm but soft, like she was telling a secret she had carried for years. "Lena," she said gently, "I need to tell you something that I should have shared with you long ago." Her hand squeezed Lena's just a little, steady and reassuring. "A long time ago I had no confidence at all. Not even a little. I was not strong. I was not brave. And I was far from perfect." Lena blinked, confused because her mind could not match these words with the mother she thought she knew. Amma continued, her voice slow and steady, not hiding anything. "People see me as confident now, but they do not know what I went through. When I was younger I was shy. I was scared to speak. I made so many mistakes, more than you can imagine. I was afraid of failing. I was afraid of being judged. And I was afraid of disappointing the people I loved." Lena listened closely, feeling the ground shift inside her chest, as if something she believed in was changing shape. For years, Lena had imagined her mother as someone who had walked through life easily, with no doubts and no fear. She thought Amma was naturally confident, naturally brave, naturally admired. But now, hearing this truth, Lena felt confusion mixed with surprise. Amma was not the perfect person she had imagined. She was human. She had struggled. She had been afraid. Amma gave a small, gentle smile, remembering her younger self. "I learned confidence slowly. Not in one day, not in one year. It took many mistakes, many tears, many moments where I wanted to give up. I had to push myself even when it felt uncomfortable. I had to fail again and again before I became stronger. I was not born brave, Lena. I learned to be brave. Lena stared at her mother, trying to understand the image forming in her mind. A younger Amma, unsure of herself, scared of speaking, afraid of failure. It felt strange, almost impossible, but Amma's voice was too honest to doubt. Lena's heart softened, and for the first time she saw her mother not as a perfect figure, but as a person who had lived, struggled, and grown. Amma looked at her daughter with deep tenderness. "And Lena," she said softly, "there is something I need you to hear. Something I should have said more often." She paused, making sure Lena was listening. "I admire you, truly. Your kindness, your ideas, your courage. You have strengths I never had at your age. But I realize now that I did not say those words enough. I did not tell you how proud you make me." Lena's lips parted slightly. Her heartbeat grew louder in her ears. She felt warm tears gathering again, but these tears were not like the ones she shed earlier. These tears came from something lighter, something softer, something healing. She had spent so long believing she was living under Amma's shadow, unnoticed and unappreciated. Hearing these words now made something inside her open. Amma kept speaking gently. "You think people see only me, but Lena, I see you. I see the way you think carefully before you speak. I see how you help others quietly even when no one thanks you. I see your drawings. I see your kind heart. You shine in your own way and your light is beautiful. You do not have to shine like me to be special." Lena felt her throat tighten again, but this time she did not want to run away. She wanted to understand more. She whispered, "But why didn't you ever tell me about your struggles?" Her voice trembled softly, filled with both curiosity and relief. Amma squeezed her hands again. "Because I wanted to be strong for you," she admitted. "I thought that if I showed only strength you would feel safe. But I did not realize that hiding my struggles made you feel alone. I did not understand that you needed to see that I was human too. I'm sorry, Lena. I should have shared my story earlier." Lena looked down at their joined hands, feeling the warmth of Amma's touch, and she breathed slowly. For the first time she felt like she was looking at her mother with new eyes. She saw Amma not as a towering figure of perfection, but as someone who had walked a long path with both light and darkness. Someone who had grown strong because she once felt weak. Amma continued softly, "Comparison is painful, Lena. I know that. I lived through it too when I was young. People compared me to others all the time and it made me feel small. I never wanted you to feel that way. But I see now that I did not help enough." She sighed gently. "I thought love alone was enough, but sometimes love also needs words." Lena felt a gentle warmth fill her heart. She had waited so long to hear something like this, though she never said it out loud. She had lived with jealousy, thinking she was failing, thinking she was not enough. But now, hearing her mother's truth, the feeling began to loosen, like a knot slowly untangling. Amma looked at Lena with soft eyes. "You are not in my shadow," she said firmly. "You have your own path, your own gifts, your own future. I want you to trust that. I want you to believe in yourself. And I will be here not as someone perfect, but as someone who understands what it means to grow." Lena felt her tears finally fall, but she did not hide them. They felt different, like rain washing away dust. She whispered, "I didn't know you felt like that. I thought you were always confident." Amma smiled gently. "No one is always confident. Not even me." Lena leaned into her mother's arms, resting her head against her shoulder. Amma held her close, wrapping her in a soft, warm embrace that carried both apology and love. The hurt between them began to melt, replaced by something clearer and stronger. Lena felt safe not because Amma was perfect but because she was real. In that quiet moment, Lena understood something important. She did not have to compete with her mother. She did not have to compare herself. She did not have to be Amma. She only had to be herself. And Amma, holding her daughter close, silently promised she would never let Lena feel invisible again. Lena felt something inside her shift in a way she had never felt before. It was soft at first, like a tiny light warming a dark room. Then it grew, spreading slowly through her chest. For many weeks she had carried a heavy weight, a tight feeling that made her heart hurt. But now, after hearing her mother's truth, that weight began to lift. It felt as if someone had opened a window inside her and let fresh air in. She took a deep breath and for the first time in a long while she felt like she could breathe fully. She hugged her mother, holding her tightly with both arms. Amma wrapped her arms around her too, gently but firmly, as if she were making a silent promise to always be there. Lena rested her head against her mother's shoulder, and in that simple moment she realized something important. All this time she had been comparing herself not to her real mother, but to an image she had created in her mind, an image of a perfect person who never struggled, never made mistakes and never felt fear. But now she knew the truth. Her mother had once been unsure, afraid and small too. Her mother had grown over time, step by step, mistake by mistake. And that made Amma more real and more human than ever before. Lena's heart softened with understanding. She whispered, "I didn't know. I really didn't know." Her voice trembled, not with sadness but with relief. Amma held her tighter and whispered back, "You don't have to know everything. You just have to know that I love you and I see you." Lena closed her eyes, letting the words sink deep into her heart. They stood in the quiet yard for a long moment. The sky was dim now, with shades of purple and gold fading into darkness. The air felt peaceful. It felt like the world had slowed down just so they could have this moment together. When they finally stepped back from each other, Amma wiped a tear from Lena's cheek, smiling softly. Lena smiled too, a small smile but a true one. Amma spoke gently. "From now on we talk," she said. "Not just when things are easy but also when things are hard. We share our thoughts. We share our fears. No more silent hurting." Lena nodded. She felt grateful for her mother's words. For the first time in her life she felt like they were standing on the same level, like equals in understanding and trust. "I promise," Lena said softly. "I want us to talk. I want you to know everything I feel, even if it's hard." Amma nodded with warmth in her eyes. "And I promise to be honest with you too," she said. "I will tell you my struggles not to make you worry, but to help you understand that strength grows slowly." They walked back into the house together, side by side. The family inside was still laughing and talking, unaware of the quiet transformation happening outside. But Lena no longer felt the same way she had earlier. She didn't feel like running away. She didn't feel small. She felt lighter, stronger. She felt as if she could breathe freely in her own skin. When they returned to the gathering, some relatives looked at them with warm smiles. Someone said, "There you two are." But this time, Lena did not shrink. She stood beside her mother comfortably. She did not feel like a shadow. She did not feel invisible. Amma placed a gentle hand on her back, not as a way of leading her but as a way of supporting her. As the evening continued, people told stories and laughed loudly. But Lena listened with a different heart now. When someone talked about Amma's achievements, Lena felt proud instead of jealous. She knew now that every success her mother had came from effort, fear, mistakes, and growth. Amma was not blessed by luck. She was shaped by experience. And Lena no longer felt like she was being compared. Instead, she felt like she had her own place, her own identity, her own path. She realized she did not need to shine like her mother. She only needed to shine like herself. Later that night, after the gathering ended and the house grew quiet again, Lena sat on her bed thinking about everything that had happened. She thought about her mother's story. She thought about her own feelings. She thought about how easily a person can misunderstand another person's life just by looking at the outside. She understood now that she had judged herself unfairly for too long. She whispered softly to herself, "I have worth." The words were quiet but they felt powerful. She repeated them again, slightly louder. "I have worth." A small smile touched her lips as she felt the truth of those words settle inside her. The next morning the house felt peaceful. Sunlight filled the rooms. Lena walked into the kitchen and found Amma preparing breakfast. Instead of sitting down silently like she used to, Lena walked over and hugged her from behind. Amma laughed gently and placed a hand on her daughter's arm. It felt natural, warm, and easy. "Good morning," Amma said. "Good morning," Lena replied with a smile. "Can I help?" Amma smiled and nodded. "Of course." They cooked together and the kitchen felt full of a new kind of closeness. They talked about simple things, school, hobbies, the weather, but it felt different because the wall between them was gone. There was no quiet hurt hiding under their words now. As days passed, Lena began to notice small changes inside herself. She walked with a bit more confidence. She spoke in class more often. She tried new things without fear of failing. When people praised her mother, she smiled naturally without feeling the sting she once felt. She even started showing her drawings to Amma, something she had never done before. And every time Amma looked at her, there was pride in her eyes. Real pride. Not pride because Lena looked like her, but pride because Lena was growing into her own person. One afternoon, Lena stood in front of the mirror. But this time she didn't look for flaws. She didn't compare herself to Amma. She didn't wonder whether she was enough. She simply looked and saw herself, Lena. A girl with kindness, ideas, courage, and a gentle strength beginning to grow. The jealousy that had once felt like a heavy stone was now gone. In its place was a warm, growing confidence. A quiet belief in herself. A new understanding of her own worth. She whispered, "I don't need to be like anyone else. I only need to be me." And for the first time she truly believed it. Later that evening, Lena sat beside her mother on the porch. They watched the sky fade into soft colors. Amma reached for her hand and Lena held it easily. They didn't need to say anything. The silence between them was full of comfort, trust, and love. Lena knew the journey ahead would still have challenges, but she felt ready for them. She had her own light now, steady, warm, and growing stronger every day. And she was no longer afraid to let it shine.